It is a little after 1, so we'll call the Monroe County Election Board meeting for June 3rd, 2021 to order. Present members are Nicole Brown, clerk and secretary, Hal Turner, who is the Republican member of the board, and myself, Carolyn Vanderweel, who's the Democratic member of the board and current chair. Start with approval of the minutes, which is also spelled wrong. Apparently I left the T out. For May 13th, 2021. Are there any amendments or discussions on the minutes prior to our vote?
No discussion from me.
No discussion from me.
And I have no changes as well.
I move we accept.
I will second.
I will call the vote as soon as I thank Sherry for her usual terrific job of putting everything together. Karen, would you call the roll?
Hal,
I accept the minutes as read.
okay, Nicole,
Aye.
Carolyn,
Aye.
it has passed.
Outstanding CFA 4 issues. I've talked to Val Houghton. She should be dropping some sort of payment off at the clerk's office in the next few days. We discussed payment options, but she's fairly familiar with how that works, given that it's part of her job. So she said she would take care of that. I'm afraid I still don't have the letter for Ryan. I will get that to you, Karen, I promise, this week. And I also have not yet had the opportunity to talk to Don Hall at Salt Creek. I've left him some messages. Have you got a follow-up?
Yes, I do. So Don Hall, Joe Hickman is the one that is the new person on the board. He ended up, he did bring us in the CEB3. So that part's taken care of. And
But we
then
don't have the oath?
Then he picked up the oath, took it to Don Hall. They signed it, did the whole thing. So now we're just waiting for Joe to bring it in. So we're really close to getting it done. I never did hear anything from Jennifer. She was going to be helping, but we ended up just making calls and making those contacts ourselves.
Okay, so we're just waiting on the oath to arrive back at the clerk's office. And everything else, as we know, is, or at your office, one of the offices. I presume it's on file in the clerk's office eventually. Is that correct? Or do you keep it at Election Central?
I just keep it. To my knowledge, they've never asked for it. Do you want it there, Nicole? I just keep the file here.
I don't, I would rather they all be in one place at election. If anybody was going to come and ask to see it, they would ask at Election Central.
Okay, that's where they are.
Item C, the voter fraud allegation update with Margaret Mengi. I have communicated with Jeff Kerr yesterday. So the paperwork was submitted to the, or the request was submitted to the prosecutor's office. The prosecutor's office accepted it and passed it along to the state police, who will be doing the at least preliminary investigation. Jeff says he has not heard from the state police as of yet, but he would reach out to them. And I've not heard anything further than that. So at the moment, things are in process, but the investigation is ongoing. And as far as we know, that voter registration is still active.
Correct. We cannot do anything different at this point.
And she has not taken it down. I mean, she's the only one who can cancel it at this point, correct?
That is correct.
So let's play this out. If it went through the prosecutor and went through the courts, like I presume like other things in the clerk's office, we would act on any orders issued by the court. So if we were court ordered to deactivate, then we would be following court orders, correct?
Correct.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, we just can't do anything until it goes through the process. But we have flagged it, so if there's any attempt to go further with that or to request a mail-in ballot or to vote a mail-in ballot, or even to vote with that, we would pick that up and it would go no further than that. Well, it might go further than that because that would be an additional allegation, but um, she wouldn't be able to vote on that particular registration.
Correct. And two, I don't even know if other states that she supposedly has done this. We do know it has happened in Florida, perhaps other states. I don't really know that she's ever gotten to vote, but I'm
No,
not,
as far as I understand it, in Florida, she did obtain a mail-in ballot, but I don't believe that she tried to vote it,
she didn't vote it. Yeah.
which would be major issue. Um, you know, her comment is that she's testing the system, but my problem with that is test the system and then deactivate the registration and then come to us and tell us, hey, here's what happened, or go to the state or whatever. But don't leave an active illegal voter registration up for, this was last November
Mhm.
after the election. So this is now 7 or 8 months down the road and that's still there. Now, she can say she was going to try to test it further, but that doesn't make it any less fraud. So we'll keep everybody updated as we are, but at the moment it is with the state police investigation, and I don't know what other states have done. I don't believe Florida did anything at all, as far as I know. But the state police are better equipped to find those things out than we are.
Agreed. You know, I guess as we wrap this up, I think the most important thing as far as voter education is that people know that we take this very seriously, that we're going to turn any instance of this over to the prosecutor. And so it just isn't even something that you would want to, you don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
Correct. I would also mention there was a case in Evansville that just, it's been pled. I don't believe they've sentenced yet, but it was a woman who sent out a bunch of requests for ballot by mail where they had filled out the form so that it would be a Democratic ballot. And that's is also not legal. The woman who did it pled guilty, but I don't believe that they've sentenced her yet, but we'll be kind of keeping an eye on that. But again, if you are helping people to register to vote and so forth, it is not your job to fill out the forms for them unless they're requested that you do so. If that's true, then you have to sign an affidavit that you did help. And you're not allowed to sign for people. They have to be able to sign, even if it's just an X, the form themselves. So if you have questions about how to deal with a situation like that, please call Election Central and they'll be able to advise you on the correct manner of doing that. But you can't take matters into your own hands and fill out a ballot for somebody or fill out a form for somebody and send it in. Any further comments? In that case, again, we'll keep people advised as we are advised by the prosecutor's office as to where this is going. Item 3 on old business is the statewide VLM postcard mailer. I did receive mine in the mail and it was correct. Any updates on that, Karen?
A couple of them. The first card has gone out. We have not gotten them in our hoppers yet, so it just takes some time. But it's all moving the way it should. There was a couple glitches from the state. The first one was there was 16,351 voters who did not have their suffix on their name. For instance, the junior and the senior got left off. Sounds like a lot of voters, but really 16,000 is across the state, not from Monroe County. It's for the whole state. So it's a pretty low number. And there's a way to fix that. They actually have resent that card out, and on there is marked corrected name in red, and that will be their first card, even though it's their second one. The first card had been resent, and there's that correction. But with that, for instance, if John Senior and John Junior lived in the same house, they wouldn't know which card or who that belonged to. And if they're confused by it all, just give us a call and we will help them through that. Or they can wait, and they should have already gotten the second card of the first card. That gets kind of confusing. And then there was another little mishap, smaller amount. There was 2,366 voter registration cards that were sent out missing fields in their name. So for instance, maybe I got one sent to me, it'd be just Karen Ann, and it didn't have the Wheeler, but there was a name in the field missing. They also got those cards resent, and they also have in red corrected name printed on there. So that's, the state just was dealing with all of that.
If somebody didn't get a card but thinks they should have gotten a card, who should they contact?
They can call our office, and it's a good thing to do. You should have gotten a card, but if you didn't, and if you didn't, we just see that you are registered and you're all good standing and everything's the same, you're going to be fine. But it's always good to check.
And perhaps we could ask our friends in the media to remind people that they should have received a card. And if they didn't, they should contact you.
Or at least check their voter registration and see what's going on.
Right.
They could go to indianavoters.com, and if they show up registered, that's what we're looking for. We just want to know that you are registered and you're living at that address. We're looking for those people who have moved on and they're not at that address. So if you get a card in the mail and it's for somebody else, then send that back. Say send back to sender, and then that'll go back to the state. And then they're going to process it that way, since they'll get another card then sent again that will be forwardable. These are not forwardable. They just go to that one place, or they go back to the state. The second card will be able to be sent on to, if they move to Michigan, they can get it there, and then they can say, oh, I don't live here anymore. So there's just different things on the first card versus this second card.
And what steps are taken after the cards are processed?
So if you got your second card and you say, I no longer live here, then we will make that voter inactive. They still, well, no, if they've moved, then we can cancel them because they're no longer there. If we don't know and we just can't find them, they become inactive. And that can be very simple. If they're still around and they just didn't get the card, it got lost in the mail or whatever, they come in and to vote. They get to vote. It takes 2 general elections. So, general elections only happen in even numbered years. So it's going to take a long time for them to get canceled, but they'll just be made inactive. And as soon as you vote, as soon as you do anything, you're back to active. So it's a pretty good process. And we want our numbers as accurate as possible, meaning we want everybody who is registered and wants to be registered to stay that way. And then those that have moved on and aren't here anymore, we want them to be able to register in their new place. So we want to be able to remove them if that's necessary, or to make them inactive, moving them in the direction of becoming canceled.
And if they got a card that was, say, forwarded because they've moved, their next step would then be to go in and correct their registration if they're still in Indiana. Is that how that should happen?
That second card actually has 3 boxes to check, so they can mark which one is appropriate for them. I no longer live here, or I live in the state of Indiana, but I've moved to another county, or I've moved within the county, and here's my new address. So we can change their address if they are still in Monroe County. And then, but they give us the new one, we'll just update it from there. If they've moved on to another county in Indiana, then they don't want to be registered here, so we would take appropriate measures for that. So it's very explanatory on there, but if they have any questions, give us a call because we will help them through it.
And if they've moved to another county and say they re-registered there, but they never let us know, they didn't return their card, does the other county notify us that they're now registered at that address, or is that something that just stays in limbo for a while?
The state has a really good process with that. So if you are in the state of Indiana, we keep pretty good track of you. So we will know that you have registered in Vigo County or wherever. So then that gets transferred and then they're connected. They're going to have both registrations, but we'll know where they are currently.
Okay. Any other thoughts from other election board members about what people should know about the process?
The only thing that I will say is that the annual clerks conference is coming up, so that if there are any updates about this, I would be happy to pass them along at the next meeting.
Moving on to new business. Let's start with the form to document in-person election offenses. This is, I believe, Hal and Sherry's baby.
Right. The form is completed, and I am today officially transferring it to Tree to forward to the attorneys for their approval.
So, I mean, we all reviewed the final form that you sent out.
We had no updates to the form during the review process.
So it now goes to county legal. They will
Yes.
review it, send it back to us with any recommendations. So
Yes.
we'll have this at our next meeting to formalize.
Yes, we will.
Okay.
I would just like to say, I thought you guys did a great job. You were very thorough. A lot of thought went into this, and I think it's going to work.
Well, I have to say Sherry did a terrific job on the design and content of that form. She really did. Thank you.
Good job. Good job, Sherry.
All right, we will look for county legal's recommendations and bring this back up in July.
Mhm.
Next issue is a policy to or on hybrid election board meetings. The commissioners have put together, and I sent this out to everybody this morning. I'm sure that nobody's had time to fully review it yet. On how to handle hybrid board meetings in terms of how or who has to attend, how many electronic meetings you might be able to attend, and so forth. So I've sent that out for us to review. And Sherry, if you wouldn't mind, we might get together and kind of look over that together. But the one thing that I wanted to discuss today, and Michelle, if you're there, if you could share the that document that I sent and go down to page 4. So there are a number of different issues that are brought up in this form that has been put together by the state, essentially, based on the changes to the law that were made by the legislature, allowing us to continue to have hybrid meetings in some form. The biggest ones, and what I wanted to discuss as far as the board goes today, because we may be meeting in person next month. We will find that out. I don't remember exactly. I believe it's July 7th that the governor's order ends. So we might be meeting electronically again next month, but potentially sometime in the next few months, we probably will be running a hybrid meeting in which we will be attending in person. But we will also have a Zoom component, which will allow public to would find it difficult to attend the meeting to be able to attend essentially in real time. And the finding has been that these Zoom meetings has allowed more people to attend meetings in real time than previously. And so that's one of the reasons that people are considering it. There are specific rules as to how members of a particular board have to act. And then there are also rules for staff and public. The biggest one, of course, is that I believe it's actually in section I here. There are things that the governing body, that would be the 3 members of the election board, if you're attending electronically and we want to adopt a budget, make a reduction in personnel, initiate a referendum, establish or increase a fee, establish or increase a penalty, use the governing body's eminent domain authority, which we don't really have, or establish, raise, or renew a tax, which again, probably doesn't apply to us. That cannot be done by a board member who is attending electronically. You must be in person. Given that we have only a 3-member board, and given the number of votes that we have to take that must be unanimous, my thought is that probably we would want to continue to require board members and or their proxies to attend in person, but that staff and members of the public could certainly attend electronically. And I just wanted comments from the other board members as to that concept before we sat down and went through this form and took out the bits that apply to us and put together a cohesive policy.
Well, of course, I think I said in an email last month that I looked forward to, I refer to these as Zoom is not my friend meetings. Although I'm very grateful to anybody in the viewing audience who has benefited from this. I'm looking forward to returning to in-person meetings. I just think the business is handled better when we can all interact with one another, kind of gauge where we are. Not that we haven't been able to do this, but this has just been making the best of a situation where we're not able to meet. And certainly for anything like that, adopting budgets and things, we'd want to have the transparency of an in-person meeting, and we can always call our proxies, as you guys have seen proxies for me over the past year when I've not been able to attend. Thank you.
Your thoughts, Hal?
I concur. I believe we do need to ensure that we have in-person attendance whenever possible, especially on critical issues pertaining to the law, to the budget, or to the safety and security of the election process.
Okay. Sherry, if you're willing, can we get together sometime in the next week or so and think about this? And we'll follow the same process that Hal and Sherry did with the other form. But I find that Ms. Morris has been incredibly good at sort of helping us to consolidate our thoughts on things. So if you're willing to review the form and talk with me about how to deal with that, we'll put this together. We will then again send it to county legal for review before making a final vote.
I'm happy to help. Yep.
I
All
think
right,
that means lunch is on you, Carolyn.
I can handle that.
Hey, Carolyn,
I might even cook it.
or yeah, I'm sorry. Sherry, could you forward the other form to Tree today? The form
It's
you.
already been done. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we can stop screen sharing at this point. Is there anything else board members would like to bring forward before we open this up to public comment?
I probably had one comment too, that in our previous meeting, the commissioners wanted to know more about the necessary space that we need for election. I didn't know if there was some direct plan for the board to get together in regards to that.
Are we thinking that a working session would be something we would want to do? Again, this is one where it being in person would really benefit us in terms of being able to make the discussion. Do we want to start this by email and just send thoughts to, say maybe to Karen to collect, as well as the staff members? Because you know your staffing needs and space better than even we do. So do we want to just kind of get together and do this? Do we want to start out with perhaps just some email thoughts over the next couple weeks and then get together and deal with it?
I really benefit with face-to-face communications. If we could possibly do this and social distance in a way that meets the requirements of state and local health laws, I think it would be beneficial. We'd get a lot more done a lot faster. I get tons of emails and it takes me all day to get through that pile. We'll get a lot more done if we do it face to face.
All right, I will send a note to Lee and see if we can do this as a work session or if we need to do it as a public meeting. And then we'll schedule something. But I agree, doing it face to face really helps us to get through these things a little bit better.
My place is available if you want to do it here too, if
Yeah.
it works.
Yeah, that probably would be a good option as far as us all getting together in person.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll let you know what county legal tells us and we'll get something scheduled depending on what they have to say. Open it up to public comment if there are people who have either comments on the agenda or have other questions that they would like to ask. Please raise your hand and we'll get Michelle to allow you to participate.
It doesn't look like there are any hands raised.
I don't see anybody. In that case, if there is no further discussion, I think we will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded, and we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Again, thank you to Technical Services, and we will meet again on July 1st. The question will be is where, and we will not know that until closer to the actual date.